This is a new episode. On the edge of the old town square stood a crumbling music school. Its windows were dusty, the sign half fallen. Lewis School of Music. Most people hurried past without a second glance, too busy with their own lives to notice the faded letters and broken steps. But Ilara noticed. Every morning on her way to work, she caught sight of a single light burning inside, no matter how early she passed. And on quiet evenings, if the wind was right, she thought she could hear faint music drifting out from the cracks in the walls, soft, hesitant notes that felt like they belonged to another time. One rainy evening, curiosity got the better of her. She pushed the heavy door open and stepped inside. Dust floated in the fading light, and the scent of old wood, paper, and wax filled the air. At the far end of the hall, behind rows of broken chairs and scattered sheet music, sat an old man hunched over a grand piano scarred by age and neglect. His fingers moved slowly over the keys, each note careful, like a memory being coaxed back to life. When the final chord faded, the man looked up. His eyes were pale but sharp. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped, his voice as worn as the instrument before him. "I heard the music," Ilara replied softly. His name was Mr. Lewis. Decades ago, this hall had been alive with laughter, lessons, and recitals. Students filled every room, dreaming of orchestras and concert halls. But time had taken its toll. A fire had burned part of the building. Funding ran dry. The students grew up and moved away, carrying their music elsewhere. Only Mr. Lewis remained, keeping watch over the piano that had outlasted everything and everyone. "I play so I don't forget who I was," he told her one evening, his voice carrying both pride and regret. Alora had always loved music, but had never dared to play. At age 10, she froze on stage during a school recital, the silence louder than applause could ever be. Since then, she'd kept her love for music locked away, hidden behind fear and shame. But as she watched Mr. Lewis play, something stirred inside her, longing not just to listen, but to be part of the song. One morning, her voice barely above a whisper, she asked, "Will you teach me?" Mr. Lewis studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "The world forgets," he said quietly, "but you don't have to." Their first lesson was simple. The piano felt cold under her fingers, and every note she played sounded wrong. Dust rose each time she pressed a key, as if the instrument itself was waking from a long sleep. Mr. Lewis guided her hands gently. "Don't fight the notes," he whispered. "Invite them." Slowly, the clashing sounds softened into something like music. Alora's heart beat faster, her fear mixing with hope. As days turned to weeks, she learned more than scales and chords. Between lessons, Mr. Lewis shared stories of the students who once filled the hall children with big dreams and restless fingers. Some had gone on to play in grand theaters. Others had left music behind entirely. Alora asked him why he had stayed. He paused, looking at the cracked ceiling as though searching for the right words. Because someone might come back, he finally said. Winter brought gray skies and brittle winds, but inside the hall, the piano's voice grew warmer. One night, Alora brought her own melody, simple, unfinished tune she'd hummed to herself for years, but never dared to share. Mr. Lewis listened in silence, then added his own harmony, deep, gentle notes that wrapped around her song like an embrace. They played together, the old man's quiet strength balancing her tentative hope. When they finished, Alora felt her hands tremble. "I've never played it for anyone before," she admitted. "You just did," Mr. Lewis said, a rare, small smile creasing his face. Word of music coming from the forgotten hall spread quietly through town. First, a teenage boy came by after school, peering through the door. Then a retired violinist visited, tuning her long, silent instrument. Slowly, the hall began to fill, again not with the crowds of decades past, but with a small, steady group drawn by the promise of shared music. Mr. Lewis watched them all with quiet pride. Though his own hands grew slower, the music inside him never truly stopped. One cold morning, Alora arrived to find the piano closed and the room strangely silent. Mr. Lewis sat in the back, his breathing shallow, his hands trembling. "I'm tired, Alora," he whispered. "Too tired to play." She knelt beside him, her voice breaking. "You taught me more than music. You reminded me why it matters." Tears blurred his eyes. "Then my music doesn't end with me." A week later, Alora organized a small recital in the hall. The broken windows let in soft winter light, and candles flickered along the cracked walls. Chairs scraped across the floor as people took their seats. She thought of that childhood recital, the crushing silence, and the years of fear that followed. Then she heard Mr. Lewis's voice in her memory. "Don't fight the notes, invite them." She began to play. Her song, once hidden, now filled the hall. For a moment, the broken walls and faded paint disappeared, replaced by warmth and possibility. When the last note faded, silence settled like snow, then rose into gentle applause. In the front row, Mr. Lewis clapped slowly, tears shining in his tired eyes. His smile soft but full. A few weeks later, Mr. Lewis passed away peacefully. In his will, he left the hall to Alora, along with a simple note, "For music that outlives us." Alora cleaned the cracked windows, polished the dusty floor, and hung a new sign above the door. Lewis and Alora, School of Music. Each evening, she sits at the piano. Sometimes she plays alone. Sometimes she plays for students, old and new. But always she plays. Because music, once shared, never truly ends. And somewhere, in every chord she plays, Mr. Lewis's quiet melody still lingers, proof that even when a song ends, the music it awakens lives on forever.